So welcome everyone, and thank you for coming today. Are there anybody who this is the first or second time? This is early. Some people say first time. Okay, good. So, well, first of all, when we are invited to bow to the Buddha, and we are told that that is the Buddha nature within each of us. Many of us are not used to bowing to anything or anyone, much less a Buddha. Again, this is not the Buddha. This is a representation of the Buddha. Both the historical Buddha, we would not be here today. This may sound strange here in the year 2016 on Nebraska Avenue, sitting together in a reconverted Presbyterian church, to say that we would not be here if it wasn't for the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, who lived 2,600 years ago in northern India. But there is a direct link from me to my teachers, to their teachers, going all the way back to the Buddha. So in a certain sense, that image, that statue, whatever you want to call it behind us, that relic of a Buddha, is representative of the historical Buddha and this transmission, this lineage. But it was also said that we are bowing to the true nature in each of us, the Buddha nature, which is true. The Buddha was only, he was called the Buddha after his great awakening. Before that, he had a normal name like the rest of us. But then he was called the Buddha. And the Buddha means really in Sanskrit, one who is awakened to their Buddha nature. What is their Buddha nature? It is our true nature. And it's not just the true nature of Shakyamuni. It is the true nature of each of us. The Buddha said, when he had his great awakening, and what he taught for nearly 50 years, was that under all this stuff, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, egocentricity, emotional afflictions, stories, dramas, you know what I'm talking about? That underneath all that, never separated from all that, is an absolutely pure, undefiled nature. It is our nature. It is no different than saying that the poisoned or contaminated water that they're finding in Flint, Michigan, didn't begin as pure, undefiled water, right? But along the way, it got contaminated, right? That was not its original nature. That was added into it, and it became toxic. So it was sort of like understanding that, in essence, the waters of whatever that river is, that is so contaminated and toxic, was not that way originally, right? It was pure, and it actually, if you go through a process of purification with that contaminated water, we can make it drinkable again, can't we? We can make it non-toxic again, can't we? In the same way, the Buddha said, each of us have this pure, undefiled nature, the source of all wisdom, the source of all understanding, the source of all compassion, the source of all good. It is really our ground, but it has been contaminated, right? So when we bow to the Buddha and the Buddha nature within us, we each acknowledge, wherever we are, whether we feel we are living in the purity of our true nature, or whether we feel that we have become, our minds have become contaminated, and we no longer experience the purity of our true nature, we are taking a moment to acknowledge, very importantly, that that is our true nature, and it is available to us. We rarely take the time in our life or our day to acknowledge that. in truth is, for most of us in our life, childhood on up, schooling, no one has ever told us that, right? I mean, at least I can only speak for myself, but in my grade school education, middle school education, high school, college, and on up, nobody ever told me about my true Buddha nature. Right? Nobody ever told me about the inherent purity of my mind, right? And that it has this wondrous capacity. But there was this historical person, through his own meditative work, discovered that. And he taught that. And it has been, that message has been carried on till the present day. It's a very important message. And because it is a message that we don't get anywhere else, we take the time to acknowledge that. Is that clear? And bowing is just simply a matter of noticing, appreciation, respect. You can bow or you could not bow. Also, for those people who are new or fairly new, sitting today might not have been the most pleasant experience. Did anybody find that it wasn't the most pleasant experience, that their heart was not at peace, and a half smile didn't naturally bloom on their lips? They didn't find themselves kind of elevating kind of off their cushion in bliss. It's a learning curve, right? And the important thing is that we have in our life, whether this is the first time or the 100th time, we have decided, even momentarily, to stop. Right? To stop. To stop the outflow, to stop the activity, and to sit. And when we sit, unfortunately, we sit with ourselves not as we'd like ourselves to be, not as we hoped we would be, not as we expected ourselves to be, our minds to be, but we sit with our minds and bodies as they are. Right? Everybody notice that? And for many people, that's not a pleasant experience. Not a comfortable experience, but it will be. In the learning curve of developing a meditative practice, a mindfulness practice, insight, etc., that will all become clear. But you have to be willing to understand that in the beginning, like beginning anything, right? Learning to play the piano or whatever instrument you might have played as a kid, in the beginning, we mostly hit wrong notes, right? That's the learning curve. And we should not have an expectation that we're going to sit down here and hit right notes, right? We're going to hit lots of wrong notes. But hopefully now we are beginning to, for the first time, understand the difference between a wrong note and a right note. Okay? And over time, if we are consistently developing ourselves in the practice and correcting the wrong notes and doing our best to hit the right notes, and when we hit a wrong note, to immediately hit a right note, you will find, in the same way that you might have developed yourselves with your instruments or your craft or your skills or whatever, that over time you did develop, right? And it began to sound nice, right? And it was not such a painful experience to practice. It actually became a pleasant experience to practice, okay? But please understand there's a learning curve here. And we all begin at a different place, and so we all each have our own learning curve. Thich Nhat Hanh once used the analogy in terms of beginning meditation. He said, if your car has been going 100 miles an hour and you put on the brake, don't expect it to stop. Right? Even if you put on the brake, it's going to still have a lot of forward movement, right? When you are been going 10 miles an hour and you put on the brake, it will stop pretty quickly, won't it? So again, if you've always had a mind that's very busy and active and racing, and you've always just let it go wherever it wants to go, Don't think that just because you've decided to change the rules of the game, that your mind is going to go along with you. You might have learned today, or those of you who've been practicing a while have learned, your mind has a mind of its own. And over time you will learn to understand that, and you will learn how to transform that, which is what this is about. So today, I wanted to continue teaching from this text that comes to us from the tradition of Indian and Tibetan Buddhism on these trainings, these mind trainings to tame the mind and awaken the heart. And this commentary on them by the Tibetan teacher Jamyang Kongtrul. And I won't go into what we've been working on over these past many months. And there have been many talks on this over the month, and I believe they're all accessible on through the website. There are videos, so if you're interested in this, in these mind trainings, please follow up and learn either through the prior talks, and there are lots of commentaries and talks out there. It's a wonderful text because in these 58, 59 small trainings, pithy, it really tells us, how do I practice in life, right? Not just on my cushion, not just in the meditation hall, but in life, in real situations, especially in aversive, difficult, challenging situations. How do I maintain evenness of mind? How do I maintain open-heartedness, right? How do I transform adversity into a path as opposed to seeing as an obstacle? So these are wonderful, very practical teachings. Okay, the one I wanted to comment on to today is the fourth part of the 7 trainings. Each of them have lots of subparts. And this one is really about, and again, even though this is oriented toward people practicing from this text, the Buddhist path, they really are applicable to anybody who is looking to transform their minds and hearts through any kind of spiritual meditative practice, okay? So I will do my best to explain it in that more non-denominational way. Again, please remember, these are called mind trainings, okay? Now, first let's mention, what is our mind? What mind are we talking about training? It is this mind that is listening to me right now. This is your mind. And when you are aware that thoughts are arising, feelings are arising, memories are arising, all kinds of dramas are arising, etc., that is all arising where? In your mind, nowhere else. Okay? So, when we understand that everything is arising in my mind, the whole way I perceive the world, myself, everything is all arising in my mind. And if my mind is not a source of happiness, not a source of well-being to me, not a source of ease to me, not a source of all wonderful, loving, kind, understanding, patient emotions, but perhaps like the water in Flint, Michigan, has become not only contaminated, right, and unhealthy, but for some of us it is often downright toxic. Okay, does everybody know what I'm talking about? That is only arising in one place, in our own minds, right? Nowhere else. So if we truly want to change our life, change our behavior, change our speech, change our relationships, change how we feel about everything and anything, we have to what? Look to our mind, and it has to be retrained. Is that clear? Because we don't realize that for the last, however old you are, 15, 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, we do have somebody who's 78, or 98, I'm sorry, who's 98. here with us today. So again, we have to realize that each of us have a history that we have been very unconscious of that embodies all the things that we think, all the mind states that arise within us, all the emotional states, all the dramas that we chew on. You everybody know what I'm talking about? All the dramas that we chew on, all our stresses, all our anxieties, all our fears, all our resentments, all our hurts, all our memories, right? We have been training in those unconsciously for our lifetime. And when you do that, and if the things we are training on, obsessing about, chewing on are not healthy, they will produce in our minds unhealthiness. Okay? So we have to first understand that that's what's been going on. That's the truth. That's where we are right now. And now we need to understand that and begin a process of retraining our minds if we want to follow, let's say in this case, the Buddha's path, which is a path to liberate, free ourselves from suffering, from affliction. Opposite meaning, we want to be happy, we want to be at ease, we want to be loving, open, carefree people. How's that sound? Right? Sounds good. Well, the reason we are not that way is we have been chewing on the wrong stuff. Right? Our minds have been chewing on the wrong stuff, and we've been spending a hell of a lot too much time digesting toxic stuff. Toxic to our mind, toxic to our bodies. Is that clear? And so we need to wake up to that and to begin this process of retraining. These 58 trainings are all about that. Okay, I won't go into those all today. But the slogan we're dealing with today, the training we're dealing today, is called the utilization of the practice in one's whole life. So these are like what are called the 5 forces, and anybody can use them. Okay, these are like the structure, the support structure for our transformative, healing, spiritual life. Okay, these 5 forces. What do we do one's whole life? And the simple training says a summary of the essential instructions. Train in the 5 forces. That's all it says. Okay? This is why these are called pith teachings and they need explanation. It doesn't even say in the text what the 5 forces are. It's train in the 5 forces. So what I want to spend a little time in today, and I know the children, the family program comes in shortly, well, about 35 minutes. So let me try to explain what these 5 forces are. Okay? The first is, what is the impetus? Here the word is impetus. We could say, what is the energy? What is the fundamental intention, aspiration, drive that is informing my whole life? Right? So you can see that's big, right? But it's also very powerful. It's saying, you know, if I kind of get rid of all the day-to-day dramas and all the, all the to-do lists and all my goals and objectives for the next year or two, all that stuff, and I say, in my life, where am I going? Right? Like the big picture, the big question. Is that clear? Because if that is a good aspiration, intention, impetus, that will energize us, always moving in that direction. So first we need this impetus. Is that clear? Each of us, however old we are. Now, in this text, which is this very core Buddhist text, the impetus, aspiration, intention of our life is very simple. It is to liberate myself from my own suffering, or the opposite of that is to actualize all the positive qualities of my mind and express them, and 2, use that in the benefit of other beings. Right? Twofold purpose in life. Free myself, work on myself, transform, heal myself, and work for the benefit of everyone else. Try to help them. Is that clear? That is the energy. So, if we're in school, if we're working, if we're shopping, if we're with our family, if we're with our friends, whether we're in easy situations, difficult situations, it doesn't matter where we are, that inspiration, that impetus, it is kind of what's driving the whole thing. Is that clear? It's sort of like, it's sort of like gas in the car, right? The car can go anywhere, but the gas energizes it, and the map, the direction, keeps it always moving in that direction. So when there are all these little exits along the way, we don't get off at them. Or if we do mistakenly get off in them thinking they're the right, we can immediately realize they're not. So this fundamental aspiration, this force that gives our life meaning and impetus, and kind of creates a wholeness. So it means, when I'm at home, and when I'm at work, and when I'm with friends, and when I'm with families, and when I'm with people I don't like, and when I'm out shopping in the world, and when I'm on vacation, it's all, these are like many, many, many different scenarios that our life is involved in, but how we are in all those scenarios, right, is all coming from the same place, right? I am self-aware, I'm practicing mindfulness, I'm practicing selfless behavior, I'm doing my, and I'm doing my best to wherever I am, trying to bring some benefit, not cause some suffering, and to see if I can alleviate some suffering here. Right? I'm there for others. Okay? Very simple. But it's really saying whatever your spiritual practice is, you are aware of that aspiration. And if you think you can be aware of it once, and then it's going to take hold, that is not the case. Once you uncover or implant within yourself a meaningful aspiration for your life, it needs to be, it needs to be there every morning. It probably needs to be there 45 times during the day as you go into every situation, just to kind of say to yourself, in this encounter, may I be free of my own egoism, my own self-centeredness, and let me bring benefit and value to others, right? That took 10 seconds to say, but it's kind of reaffirming that deep aspiration for our whole life and makes it how to be in that moment, in that situation. Without that, we're all over the place, right? Has anybody noticed that maybe in your heart you'd like to be a good person, but you often find that you're not, right? You'd like to think of yourself, maybe, I'd like to think of myself. I'm a kind human being, I'm a nice human being, I care about other people, right? And yet, if we are really aware, we might find ourselves often less than, right? Oftentimes we are less than because we are not carrying that intention for our life with us. We somehow think wanting to be a good person, wanting to be a peaceful person, wanting to be a helpful person will make us that. Has anybody noticed that does not work? Right? Getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to practice the piano 2 hours today. How long do you think that'll last? For many people, it won't even last more than 5 minutes. Right? We forget it. We get swept away by all the other stuff that's going on in our minds and in our life. So if you are wanting to achieve something meaningful in your life, you need this aspiration, intention, and impetus. Is that clear? So that's the first force, right? The second force is really something that's apparent to all of us. It's called familiarization. We could call it habituation. It means it's sort of what I was just saying, that if there is anything we want to develop in ourselves, there has to be another word would be discipline. Discipline implies what? commitment, repetition. We have to be willing, sort of what we were talking about just a little bit earlier in terms of, developing the capacity to, be calm and peaceful and open in our sitting. To have it be a pleasant experience. It will only come about if we are committed to becoming more and more familiar, becoming habituated to the practice. Right? So whatever it is you want to develop in yourself, how you think, how you speak, the actions of your body, right? You need to bring that awareness of into the realm of, I have to keep doing it over and over again, right? When I do it the way I'd like, I'm aware of it. And when I fall off the mark, I'm aware of it and I correct, right? So it's not just doing it right, it's correcting when we do it wrong. Often in human relations, that means what? That simple thing of saying to someone, what? I'm sorry. Yeah. Forgive me for saying that or not doing that or acting that way. Yeah, that wasn't me at my best, and that's not really the way I want to be, right? It begins with simple things like that, right? Which is just, again, that process. There is no other way that we are going to change ourselves unless we make a commitment to, on a continuous basis, practicing, familiarizing, habituating ourselves to whatever it is we're changing. And again, if we're changing something in the world, right? If we want to learn a new behavior or learn a new skill for our work or whatever, it's the same thing, right? Is that clear? We have to have an intention, we have to know what we're doing, we have to be willing to do it over and over and over and over again. And when we do that with the intention and over again, we become what? Competent. Right? How else do we develop competency? And everybody here hopefully has developed competency in some area of their life. This area of personal transformation is no different. Many people, they're like very competent in kind of worldly activities, and then it goes to their own transformation, and they go, gee, I don't have a clue. It's like, I don't have a clue. Well, it's no different. Right? You have to have a clear intention. You have to know really what you want to do. It has to be very concrete. And you have to be willing to be disciplined and repeat. Right? On a continuous basis. When it's going well and when it's not going well. When it's easy, when it's hard. Is that clear? Again, we all know this is no different. This is not mystical. This is not metaphysical. This is very simple and direct and concrete. The third force is called the force of virtuous seeds or deeds. If we want to become a more altruistic person, right? An altruistic person is somebody who what? Who thinks of others and wants to help others. That's an altruistic, whether it's others close to you, people not close to you, people in the world, society, the world, altruism, right? If you want to become an altruistic person, then we have to be very attentive to our deeds, to our thoughts, to our actions, and always, to the best of our ability, cultivating good ones. In Buddhism, these are called wholesome. Wholesome as opposed to unwholesome. Wholesome seeds, when they are nurtured, give rise to wholesome fruit. Unwholesome seeds, when nurtured, give rise to affliction. Again, for many of us, very unconsciously, early childhood, life growing up, many negative seeds, unwholesome seeds, were planted in our consciousness. Is that clear? And not knowing the difference between wholesome and unwholesome seeds, we have cultivated unwholesome seeds and therefore have reaped that kind of fruit in our life. If you want to more quickly change and transform, then we need to be very conscious, very aware that we are trying to plant as many wholesome, positive, good seeds in our life by the way we think about things, by the way we speak, and by the actions of our body. So again, this is a very important intention, force, right? To simply say, in my garden, in the garden of my mind, in the garden of my speech, in the garden of my actions, I am only going to be cultivating healthy, pretty flowers, healthy vegetables, wholesome fruits, right? That's, I'm not going to be cultivating weeds. I'm not going to be cultivating noxious plants, right? Nobody cultivates, as far as I know, let's say, poison ivy. Come look at my garden. Look what a wonderful crop of poison ivy I have. We laugh because it's so ridiculous. And yet, if we stop and ask ourselves honestly, in the privacy of our mind, in the thoughts that we have about ourselves, about others, right? Are they not poisonous? Do they not do harm to me in terms of how I feel? Right? I mean, there is no mystery. If we feel, many people say, I have a heaviness, I feel heavy. Well, look at your thoughts. Look at your mind states. Look at your emotions. See what you are cultivating, right? And then it will be very clear to you, right, why you feel heaviness. If you feel heavy emotions, if you feel anger, resentment, hurt, just look at your mind. See what you are thinking about. See what you are, what kind of mind states you are cultivating. And you will see clearly what it is that is maintaining that kind of emotional state in your mind. It is not a mystery. Right? That's important. Right? So if we're going to go about this process of transformation, we have to be very clear about the seeds that that are already planted within me, that I do want to stop cultivating, and that I really want to be again. Many people say, "Oh, I'm a bad gardener." Some people say, "I don't have a green thumb. I kill everything." Again, all you could do is read the book. I mean, gardening is not a mystery. People act as if gardening's a mystery. Growing plants is a mystery. People say, "I just kill everything." I just kill. Can't give me a house plant, I kill it. No. I mean, unless you really believe there's some kind of negative energy that you're kind of radiating out into the world, you're probably not what? Probably if it's a sunny plant, you're putting it in the shade. If it needs shade, you're putting the sun. You're not watering it regularly. You're not giving it nutrition, right? I mean, that's... Seeds respond to all these good things. You plant a seed in good soil, you take care of it, it will grow. But please make sure that the seeds you are planting, and again, every time we are thinking about something, even in the privacy, this is important, you see, even in the privacy of our own minds, we think, oh, nobody can see me, right? Nobody can hear me, right? I can think every rotten thought about anybody in the world I want. You see? And I can keep it going for days. Right? And when I have nothing going on, I can really think about stuff from my childhood and kind of really go over that one again. You see? And then we wonder why we're not happy, why we don't feel light. Is that clear? It's no mystery here. These minds, there's no mystery why, Flint water, again. There's no mystery why the water of Flint is toxic, is it? No, they know what's been flowing into it, right? And they know that they haven't been putting it through a process of purification. So you end up with toxic water. We end up with toxic minds. Okay, so this force of aspiration and intention for our life, how we want to be, generally, and have it inform us. Habituation, familiarization, we just carry it throughout the day with us, and we're very consciously cultivating virtue, positive seeds, positive actions, positive thoughts, because those are what we are experiencing in our mind. Okay? The fourth is called a repudiation. Or sometimes it's been translated as revulsion. And what this means, and again, this is the context, this text is all about primarily how to be an altruistic human being. In Buddhism, that's called the Bodhisattva. Somebody who is following a spiritual path of transformation and wants to be of benefit to others. Wants to be a loving, kind, compassionate human being to themselves and to others. That's what this text is all about. That's the end result. Okay? So what this fourth force of revulsion or repudiation means, that other side, you see, that other side of us. You know that one, that egocentric, that me, that it's all about me, my needs, my want, that narcissistic self-absorption, right? That unfortunately kind of permeates or perfumes so much of our life. It's, no matter where we are, it's always about me. What are people thinking about me? How am I being perceived? How can I get this person to like me? How can I get this person to love me? How can I get this person to think positive things about me? And and all the manipulation that goes into maintaining that, right? To protecting and walling off all the things we don't want, and to working very hard to get all the things we want, and to kind of manipulate people in situations, always to get our ego needs met. That self-centeredness, we might say, which in Buddhism is seen as the source of our suffering, we need to kind of go, I don't want to do that anymore. You see, there's got to be, when you hear the word revulsion or repudiation, don't think, this is not shame. Okay, so people who like to go down the shame route, this is not about shame, because it's really not about you. This is stuff we learned unconsciously, we've been cultivating unconsciously, we just didn't know better. Okay? We thought that taking care of number one was what life was about, right? Right? We thought self-centeredness was what it was all about. We thought of competing with everybody else and making sure that we came in first was what it was all about. Nobody ever taught us that, you may win, you may get your way, but you will not be happy. That's the problem. You will not be happy. Right? And if you are happy, it will only be a happiness that comes when you're getting your way. Because when life isn't going your way or people aren't giving what you want, you will be what? Unhappy, angry. Look at our political process, how they treat it. It is all about that. Right? If you listen to these guys, it's all about that. Okay. So, in the Buddhist tradition, the path of selflessness, the path of caring about others, the path of compassion and loving kindness, the path of selflessness. Again, this is not self-abnegation. This is not self-hate. This is like, something wrong with me. It means I'm equal to. I'm not better. It's like we said in the beginning. I am not better than. I am not worse than. Nor am I equal to, like, in a jealous way, like it means, no, my needs, my wants, his needs, his wants, her needs, her wants. Oh, people were in relationship, This is what it means. It means that willingness to not see in relationships with other people, intimate or non-intimate, collegial, it's not all about me. Right? Am I willing to go, oh, there's somebody over there that maybe sees things differently. They have needs, they have wants, they have their history, and they're at least equal to me, to mine. Right? That's at least, I would say, fair. Would you agree? It's fair. The egocentric view is, no, it's all about me. Right? They didn't say what I want. They didn't treat me the way I want. They're not meeting my needs. Right? And my job is either to unload on them or what? Or manipulate the hell out of the situation to get it go my way. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay? This is repudiating that. Kind of having ooh, I don't want to be that kind of person. I renounce egocentricity. Egocentricity means I am the center of the world. And in a world of 6 or 8, how many billion people, that is a bizarre notion. Right? Can you see that? 8 billion people in the world, and I'm the center of it. I mean, we laugh because it's so irrational. And yet, watch your mind during the day. Watch it. Who is it concerned with? Whose needs is it taking care of and obsessing about? Right? Now again, this doesn't mean that we don't have a responsibility to our bodies and our minds and our life, but it's a very different playing field. Right? So if there are 2 of us, then it's 50-50. Right? But it even goes beyond that. You see, it may be 25-75. Try that one. We don't like that one. Or maybe go, all right, I get it, 50-50. But see, then there's another very interesting piece about selflessness, which is, it's hard for me to be happy if they're unhappy. Right? And wow, if I can really nourish their happiness, it'll be much more pleasant to be with them. I'll be happier, you see? So sometimes there's a saying in the mind trainings that goes very wildly, crazily, says, give victory to others, take defeat upon yourself. Talk about an un-American slogan. Right? What? Come in last? Yeah, sometimes it's good to come in last. Let them win. Let them be happy. Let them have the good feeling. Right? That feels good. Right? Feels good to give victory to others. We don't need to win all the time. Right? And they may feel, if they're feeling better, they may be more pleasant to be around. Right? Is that clear? So this knowing what we want to cultivate, how we want to be, and having, again, this kind of it's, again, that's what I'm saying, it's not shame, it's not kind of a negative self-perception, it's just like when that egocentric view comes up, and you hear that word and those words inside yourself, you have an immediately kind of negative hit toward it. Is that clear? You go, no, I don't want to do that. And you correct. I don't want to be like that. Yeah. Ooh, I can't believe I just said that. You know what I mean? And it's just to go, I want to do it differently. So that force of revulsion, of repudiation, is the fourth And the fifth is interesting. It's called, it sort of ties in with the first. In this kind of practice, it's sort of the bookends of what we do in this. This is very much in this, what's called this Bodhisattva Path. And it's, again, it's when we understand it psychologically, it makes sense. So it's this, what it says is, before every action, I have this aspiration, right? That this will be, of benefit to others, and that I will use whatever arises as a way to heal and transform myself. I'm kind of self-aware, and I have this aspiration, this twofold aspiration of my own awakening, and my own liberation, and the benefit of others. Then we, do whatever we're doing, and if good results come, right? So like at the end of today, we'll probably do a little dedication which says, if any merit has come from this meditation we've done today, may it be shared with everyone, right? So it's again, this kind of, at the end of whatever action we've done, to kind of put it in the cultivation of this altruistic view, right? So it's like, but it really goes deeper than that. It's again, coming out of our cocoon of self-absorption. So let's say you just had a nice meal, right? And most of the time a nice meal will say, wow, this is a great meal. Wow, I really feel good. But what if we said, gee, this was really a great meal. Wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone in the world had access to good meals? You see, that takes how long? 5 seconds. But you can see, it's like it's changing our minds. It's kind of putting it in a context, Let's say after you leave here today, you go for a walk, it's a lovely day, and and you say, gee, I'm really enjoying myself. Wouldn't it be if everyone could really enjoy nature? You're feeling happy about something. Wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone could experience happiness? Does that make sense? So it's just like a little, they call them bookends. And you kind of put the bookend of all your positive experiences going, I want to share it. So again, this is psychologically, we're just, it's like taking this totally self-absorbed, narcissistic mind that we inherited in childhood, we really worked very diligently at during our teenage years, and then we've been kind of struggling over these past decades to get out of, right? Some of us have been more successful than others, right? So these 5 forces and this last one are all ways, again, that we can just speedify the transformative process. Because again, it is our minds that have to be changed. Our minds are primary. From our minds, from what we think, come our actions of our body and our speech. So, while attention has to be paid to the actions of our body and the actions of our words, it is our minds, right, that need to be really looked at and transformed. Again, that is why in the Buddhist tradition, a prime major practice that we do is meditation, right? Why? Well, because meditation deals directly with the mind, right? So if you're going to transform the mind, you need a technology that allows you to do it. Okay? Meditation is that technology that teaches us about the mind, how to understand the mind, how to change the mind, how to transform the mind, how to heal the mind, right? We need that technology that takes us into our minds, right? Most of the technology that we're involved in takes us out, right? It takes us into the world of media. It takes us into the world of stimulation. It takes us into the world of what's going on out there, right? But what's going on out there is all filtering through what's going on in here, right? Does everybody understand that? For each of us, everything we're experiencing, everything we're doing is filtering through our own filters. And most of us did not consciously develop our own filters. We received our filters, right? from our parents, from our society, from our teachers, from the kids we hung out with. Right? That's created this mind and how it filters. And now we can begin to look at that, step back in that and say, how do I want my mind to be? How do I want to relate to things? What kind of, if I'm going to have filters on my mind, are these the filters that I want? Or am I dealing with a filter that is filtering things in ways that I really don't even want anymore, or don't really serve me anymore? Does that make sense? So, it's just about that. So the summary of the essential forces: train in the 5 forces. First is inspiration, aspiration, impetus. Second is habituation, familiarization. Third is the planting of virtuous, positive seeds. Fourth is this revulsion or repudiation of those things that are negative, especially egocentricity and narcissistic behavior. And then fifth, to kind of have this dedication that we can use at the end of our day, at the end of any activity. May everyone experience goodness. May everyone be happy. May everyone have enough to eat. Right? I have enough to eat. May everyone have enough to eat. I have clean water. May everyone have clean water. I have access to medical care. May everyone have access to medical care. Right? My children are healthy. May everyone's children be healthy. Right? All the things that we want for ourselves and our loved ones, we come out of this very narrow, small numbers. You see, where it's small number stuff. It's a big world. There are lots of people. In the dedication, we acknowledge, right, that the same good things we want for ourselves and our loved ones, everybody wants for themselves and loved ones. So why don't I wish it? Why don't I dedicate it? Is that clear? We may have a minute before the kids come in. Are there any questions? Yes.
Talking about how you're moving on from moving back to self and then moving on to home, right? Think about it like not just on life yourself and then thinking about like how can I help other people once you have that sort of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is, why does it matter if you can't actually do something that actually make everybody happy? Actually help.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I'll just repeat the question. The question seemed to be, I get it, wanting that for myself, right? But why have these big aspirations that everybody be happy or everybody be free of suffering or everybody, when I can't do that? Okay. So it's a good question. What's your name? Eric. So let's say one day, after many lifetimes of cultivating this aspiration, you end up king of the world, right? And instead of only thinking of yourself, right, and your own power and your own glory, you have cultivated this mindset that really cares for others. Right? That would be a big difference, wouldn't it, in how you were? So we cultivate this mind state so we're kind of ready, you see? Like right now you may say, yeah, if I'm just going to take care of myself, I'll be lucky, right? But maybe as your life progresses, Eric, you will find that you're around more people, more ability to influence, and you've already then have that mindset, okay? Besides, it also feels good to have those kinds of thoughts. But it's also, you're cultivating seeds in your mind that will one day come to fruition, okay? So, thank you all. We will end and now really get on with the important thing.